他是现代华尔街的风云人物，他被人誉为最富远见的国际投资家，他也是美国证券界最成功的实践家之一。他如何看待经济危机？
It would have been better if we let things collapse.
对于金融行业的前景，他为何会如此悲观？
Finance, in my view, is going to be a terrible place to be for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
他会如何看待国际顶级做空大师吉姆·查诺斯唱空中国的行为？
Someday you'll be right.
敬请收看本期《意见中国》，为您解读。2008年，当国际投资大师罗杰斯接受美国 CNBC 采访时，他就表达了对美联储处理金融危机所采取方式的失望与悲观。
It's pouring huge amounts of money into the system. It's printing money. It's going to cause more and more inflation. The dollar's going to continue to go down. It's going to cause a worse recession in the end.
然而，时至今日，美联储依然坚持执行量化宽松政策，以刺激经济的发展，并且于2012年9月推出第3轮的量化宽松政策。
At a time, Albert Einstein, who was a smart guy, said the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. This is the third time they've tried QE. Didn't work the first 2 times, and it's not working this time, except it's making some assets go up.
Mr. Warren Buffett defended the Fed's action. He said that the result would be, the consequences would be terrible if the authority had failed to act. Why does he say that?
Because Warren Buffett got bailed out. He, like many other people, got a huge amount of money and got bailed out and saved. Listen, if you give me $1 trillion, I will show you a very good time. We'll both have a whole lot of fun and everything will be great. But that does not mean it's good for Warren Buffett. It's good for the people who are receiving all this money, but it's not good for the world. It's not good for America, not good for most Americans. But eventually we will see. As I said before this interview, it would have been better if we let things collapse, and it would have been terrible pain for a year or two, but then we would be on a sound basis. Warren thought he needed to be bailed out as things were collapsing, so of course he says it's a good thing. You would too.
Talking about QE, the latest Fed's meeting shows that a number of members expressed a willingness to exit QE, but Ben Bernanke said it's still too early. What do you think of that?
Mr. Bernanke has never been right about anything. If you go back and look at Mr. Bernanke's everything he said since he's been in Washington, you would see that everything he has ever said has been wrong. He said there was no housing problem. He said there was no financial problem, etc. Why do you listen? I guess you have to listen to Mr. Bernanke, but I don't, because I know he's always wrong. Mr. Bernanke does not know much about economics. He does not know much about finance. He does not know much about currencies. All he knows about is printing money. And we have given him the printing presses, and he is running the printing presses as fast as he can. But he has never been right about anything, including printing money.
What are the possible scenarios going to be when the QE ends?
It's going to be terrible. All of us are going to face a crisis or a semi-crisis, because you have, for the first time in recorded history, you have every major central bank printing a lot of money. The Japanese said, we will print unlimited amounts of money. The Americans said, well, wait a minute, we can do that too. We can print even more money. So then the English, the head of the central bank in England, said, well, we can do it. And then, you know, the Europeans said, well, we'll print more too. This is going to end very badly, because eventually they have to stop, or, I mean, they'll stop on their own, or the market will force them to stop, because they just won't take their paper money anymore. You can see in Japan, the market may already be saying, we don't want to play this game anymore. It was fun for 6 months, but now we don't want to play. So eventually it's going to stop, and when it stops, it's not going to be fun. And by the way, Mr. Bernanke, it seems that Mr. Bernanke is going to leave his term early next year when his term expires. In my view, Mr. Bernanke knows that there's a disaster coming. He wants to get out while he can.
What exactly caused the gold price to fall from grace in mid-April?
Gold was up 12 years in a row, which is extremely unusual for any asset. I know of no asset in history that has gone up 12 years without a down year. There may be some, I just don't know about them. So gold was very much overdue for a correction. It is happening. There are many reasons. People always look for a reason when something like this happens. I can give you several. The one that I ascribe the most to is the fact that the Indians are coming down hard on purchases of gold, and India is the largest buyer of gold in the world, India and China. So when India says we want to stop gold purchases, obviously it's having a big effect. But there are many reasons. The main reason, in my view, is gold was up 12 years in a row, had not had a down year. That's abnormal. That's not the way the markets are supposed to work. So now it's having a substantial correction. I hope it continues for a while. I suspect it will. It'll make a sound bottom over a few days, weeks, months, year or two, and then gold will resume the bull market and things will be fine in gold again.
How do you think of the planned financial tax in Europe?
Politicians always look to tax anything they can, and right now everybody's against bankers and financial types, and so when you find somebody that's unpopular, you like to tax them because you don't have to worry too much. Finance, in my view, is going to be a terrible place to be for the next 10, 20, 30 years. All the kids getting MBAs are making terrible mistakes because finance is going to be a bad place for many reasons, including the fact that politicians around the world, certainly in the developed world, are very much against financial types.
Let's move back to China. Jim Chalmers is shorting China right now, and he said China's real estate bubble is insane and the Chinese economy is deteriorating. And what's your opinion on that?
Jim has been saying that for 4 years and has been dead wrong for 4 years. I guess if you say it long enough, someday you'll be right. China certainly will have problems someday. I don't know when. I don't think Jim really understands China. I mean, I know him and like him and respect him. Jim said that China would be 1,000 times worse than Dubai.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Dubai's had a great recovery, and China's not going to be you know, when he said that, it showed he didn't understand Dubai and he didn't understand China. But it's okay. He's a smart guy. He gets a lot of things right. China, he does not understand.
So, what do you think of the China's capital markets? Is China's A shares undervalued for the moment?
I don't know. I'm not buying Chinese A shares. I only like to buy most markets when they have a big collapse. If China has another big collapse, someday I'll probably buy more Chinese shares.
How do you think of China's monetary policy? You said that U.S. is printing a lot of money, Europe is printing a lot of money, but China is also printing a lot of money. We have a 4 trillion stimulus plan in 2008, and do you think it's the right thing to do?
No, I don't ever think printing money is the right thing to do, no matter where it is. China's situation, to some extent, is because you don't have a freely convertible currency, so all this money pours into China, which means there's a lot of money floating around. That's one reason your money supply is up so much. Now, China's done a lot of things right. In my view, that's a mistake. They should have a convertible currency, because then you wouldn't have this money trapped in China, and you would have less inflation. But, I mean, China is going to do what it wants to do. They don't have to listen to me. But that's one reason they have such a high growth in money supply. But printing money is never good. Never. No time in history, except in the short term, sometimes, is money printing good. It has never worked in the long term. It has never worked in the medium term. It has always led to problems.
Talking about currency, RMB is appreciating rapidly against US dollars. Is this going to be a trend in the long haul?
Well, I own the renminbi. I hope it is. I've never sold any of my renminbi. You know, if you look at the Japanese yen went up 500–600% against the US dollar over several decades. I suspect that the renminbi will go up several hundred% against the US dollar too over several decades. Don't sell your renminbi. In fact, if you want to sell some renminbi, I'll buy some right now. I'll buy your renminbi if you want to sell them.
What do you think of the prospects for the internationalization of renminbi?
I thought it should happen today. This is not 1913. This is 2013. China is a strong, powerful country with the largest foreign currency reserves in the world, a huge balance of trade surplus, What do they need a blocked currency for? You can never become a great international economy with a blocked currency. This is not 1913.
Many economists actually worry about the Chinese model, the state capitalism, and what's your opinion on that? And what's your primary concern about China?
Well, first of all, China's done a wonderful job in the past 30 years. They're the most successful country in the world in the past 30 years. Whether they'll be in the next 30 years or not, I don't know. What am I most concerned about China? Water. If China doesn't solve its water problems, there won't be a China story. I have driven around the world twice now. I have seen whole societies, cities, countries disappear. If the water disappears, there's nothing you can do. You can overcome revolution, civil war, famine, plague, depression. You cannot overcome if water disappears. So now China knows it's got a water problem. China's spending billions of renminbi trying to solve its water problem. But until they solve the water problem, I worry. Now, somebody's going to make a fortune helping them solve the water problem, and I'm sure they will. But that's, if you ask, the only thing that worries me about China. As I said, revolution, plague, famine, all of that we can, drought, all of that we can overcome. You cannot overcome it if the water disappears.
Do you believe that state capitalism is not a problem?
State capitalism has worked extremely well for China in the past 30 years. It's being dismantled slowly as a matter of purpose, and even if they don't do it by a decision, it's going to happen. The natural forces are making state capitalism erode in China. It worked. Will it work in the next 30 years? I doubt it. China will evolve to a new model, more open and freer markets, and I hope that they do a terrific job. I'm convinced China is going to be the most important country in the 21st century. You can ask me in 40 years if I was right or not.
You've been to so many countries and places around the world. Which place impressed you most?
Well, it depends on how you mean impress me most. Obviously, China impressed me the most. Here I am. I've told you that China is going to be the most successful country in the 21st century. We adore China. My children speak Mandarin, speak perfect Mandarin like natives. We moved to Asia. China impressed me the most. Now, if you're talking about natural sites, I mean, the Sahara Desert is one of the most extraordinary sites in the world. Some of the glaciers in South America cannot be believed until you see them. But it just depends on what man-made sites. I mean, the Terracotta Warriors is an extraordinary man-made site. The Taj Mahal. If you haven't been to the Taj Mahal, don't ever look at a picture. Just go, because you will not be able to comprehend how beautiful it is until you see it in person. So when you ask me what impressed me the most, a lot of things.
Talk a little bit about your life in Singapore.
Well, we're keen on Singapore. It has a great education, great health care. Everything works in Singapore. My children love their school. They go to government school, public school. My 10-year-old is the only blue-eyed girl in the whole school. But we're all very keen on Singapore. It's a lot of interesting things to do. It's a very vibrant and dynamic place. You know, when I fly to New York, I realize I'm flying into a third world airport. I get in a third world taxi. I ride on a third world highway. I go to a third world 5-star hotel. I come to Singapore, and it's the first world. I'm afraid the West is the past and Asia is the future.